Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, now only 2 days away from what's shaping up to be an epic Final Four in San Antonio. You know the deal by now. All 4 1 seeds advancing for only the second time ever. That's the best versus the best. Of course, the matchups, the early one and all SEC meeting between Auburn and Florida, and then the nightcap, Houston and Duke. And that's how we are rolling here. I'm Chris Honorado with only the best. Those 4 1 seeds. And our college basketball analyst now, Mike O'Donnell in studio, and Trey Demps joining us as well. That first game, that all SEC meeting, it's a rematch, including the top overall seed Auburn. Trey and Mike now, along with Chris. All right, Trey, I'm going to kick this out to you to start here on the Gators. How does Florida beat Auburn for a second time this season?
Well, watching film from the last game, one of the big keys was Walter Clayton going against the drop coverage that Auburn presents. And, obviously with Johni Broome and his health, I think attacking him and targeting him like an NBA team is going to be really important. Looking at the last game, Walter Clayton had 19 points, 9 assists, and really diced Auburn up in that drop coverage and was able to get what he wanted. And I think also you look at the last matchup, Florida made 13 threes, but a lot of those were tough, long threes, a lot of offensive possessions that were kind of helter-skelter. I thought Auburn's pressure really affected Florida, and I thought Florida kind of made some lucky ones. So they're going to have some fluidity on the offensive end, and I think that obviously starts with Walter Clayton.
There's a lot of love in this circle for Walter Clayton Jr. Trey, I read on your Twitter that you think he's no doubt a lottery pick come this summer. I heard our guy MOD on the air not that long ago say he's one of the most underrated guards in the country and could be considered an all-time great Gator when all this is said and done. But if Auburn is going to flip the script here and they're going to find a way to beat Florida this time around, Mike, obviously they've been cautious with Johni Broome, didn't practice Tuesday or Wednesday. We've been told he is practicing today, going to play Saturday. We all knew that would happen, obviously. But if Auburn's going to be able to win, aside from what Broome does, what do they need to do?
Trey's really sharp because he mentioned that drop coverage. I don't think they'll play that drop coverage again, but if we were to go down deeper into the weeds, some of those things where you're looking at schematically, like, does that actually matter? How tough is Auburn going to be? I think it comes down to 3 things. Auburn has to have perfect box outs, not like good. They got to be perfect. Auburn has the worst rebounding rate out of all 4 teams in the Final Four, and they have a tendency to give up too many offensive rebounds where Florida is great at that. They have to have active hands, active feet. That's kind of a boring coach speak. But what that means is Florida, the last 3 games, have had double-digit turnovers in those last 3 NCAA tournament games. That is a huge key. If Auburn can get out in passing lanes, deflection steals, kind of the one loose end in Florida's armor and how good they've been playing are those slow starts and turnovers. And I think Auburn, because of their offensive firepower, if they can get out run steals, that could be trouble for Florida. Could be a good formula for Auburn.
All right, let's stay with you here, MOD. Your pick to win this one.
I'm going Auburn. I understand Florida's depth. It's such a difficult pick because Florida's the deepest team in college basketball. They haven't looked elite in the NCAA tournament. They've gotten to the Final Four, and I'm saying that with a little grain of salt. They deserve to be in the Final Four, but there were the last 2 games they had to kind of come back. I just think Auburn's playing really well. I think even if you have Johni Broome at 75%, that's still an All-American.
All right, and Trey, who wins this one for you?
I'm going with Auburn as well. And, to Mike's point, I think he hit it right on the nail. I just think the offensive lulls for Florida are just really concerning for me. Looking at the Texas Tech game, Texas Tech had that 12-2 run where Florida didn't score for 4 minutes. Against UConn in the round of 32, they shot 35% from the field in the first 30 minutes of the game. And I just feel like for long stretches and short stretches, Florida really struggles with going through lulls where they struggle to score the basketball. And then also shot selection has kind of been a concern for Florida. They take a ton of deep threes. That's what Todd Golden wants. But I feel like with those deep threes comes with long rebounds where guards like Tahad Pettiford can get out and transition and get some easy ones.
All right, I hope it's as good as, look, the betting side likes Florida. You guys both like Auburn. I'm hoping it's as level as we think this one's going to be. The late game here, guys, maybe saving the best for last, at least in terms of the #1 rated offense against the #1 rated defense in the country. MOD, I'm going to start with you. If Houston is able to beat the overall favorite to win it all, Duke, how do they do it?
I'm so excited for this game.
I know you are, man.
So when you say the #1 offense versus the #1 defense, it's the #1 scoring offense versus the #1 scoring defense. It's also analytically the #1 defense and the #1 offense scoring to KenPom. But these are two of the greatest KenPom teams ever in terms of offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. Not just we're talking about like this season, ever. And what Houston really needs to do is they have to control the tempo. That's how they win games. They do it with defense. And they don't necessarily get out and get deflection steals. And the reason they want to control the tempo and have one of the slowest tempos in the country is they make you play the entirety of the shot clock no matter what. Even if you don't want to, you don't have a choice because of schematically how they play defensively. Help side urgency is going to be huge for Houston because Duke is elite. They might be the best team in the country at running 5-out offense and slipping screens, especially like Malawach, either slipping the screen or throwing a pass is what's make their offense so efficient. And I think finding Emmanuel Sharp early is going to be another huge key. This is Kelvin Sampson's best defensive team ever, but it's also their best three-point shooting team ever because of Emmanuel Sharp. And when he's making threes, it totally changes this Houston offense for the better. It takes a lot of pressure off L.J. Cryer and Juwan Roberts. And Houston really has been the best three-point shooting team in the country overall at 1 or 2 lulls throughout the course of the season. But the more Sharp can get going, it opens up Roberts in the low post. Even if he misses a three, offensive rebounding for Houston, that's like their bread and butter. You get Tugler in there and Roberts. So those are the big keys for Houston.
I know we hate cliches here, but I'm going to use it anyway, Trey. Something's got to give in this one, right? Duke is averaging 92 points per game in its 4 wins in this tournament. Houston's allowing 35 points fewer than that. How does Duke attack that vaunted defense?
Well, I think it starts with the mentality. I think that's the biggest thing because Duke played an Alabama team that pretty much gave no resistance defensively. And so now you're going to the complete opposite where you're going to go against a Houston team that gives a ton of resistance, pressures the ball, all 5 top guys guard at a high level. And so I think from a player standpoint, I remember being a player, is like when you would play against a poor defensive team, the adjustment sometimes in that first 8 minutes of playing a great defensive team can really affect you. So I think spacing is really important for Duke, especially in their ball screen coverages or ball screen offense. They have to do a really good job because Houston really likes to get their bigs out on those ball screens and put 2 on the ball and be able to attack on the backside and 3-on-4 after the guard, whether it's Sion James or Tyrese Proctor, gets the ball out of his hands. And I think the last thing too as well is like Duke has to make tough shots because this Houston team, as we've seen, is stiff defensively. And so I think Duke has to make at least 10 low percentage shots. And what I mean by that is maybe ISOs or something in the mid-range where Cooper Flagg or Colin Knippel makes a play just out of nothing, because that's what Houston defense forces you to do. They force you to play late to the shot clock and force you to take tough shots. And so I think that's what Duke has to do. They have to be able to make some of those tough ones.
All right, we just saw the graphic point differential in NCAA tournament history. Duke is, 5th all time. This version of Duke, anyway, is 5th all time. But not every team on that graphic, Mike, won the national championship. Not every team on that graphic even got to the national title game. Who wins this one between Houston and Duke?
Neutral site floor, huge football arena, never great shooting in those kind of arenas.
True.
I'm picking neutral site defense to win this game. I've got Houston going against the grain. I think this is the year that Kelvin Sampson actually wins it all. And I will say this about the Houston in that pick. The magic number is 8, Chris. If Houston stays within 2 or 3 possessions, under 8 points, they will win that game. It's when Duke gets a 10-point or 12-point lead. Houston's not really built to come back for that because of their tempo and style of defense. But I think neutral site floor, I'm picking defense. This is the most physical team by far that Duke has faced all season. I'm going with the Cougars.
Any team in the class of Houston that Duke has seen?
Auburn.
Okay.
Auburn, and they caught Auburn after the Maui hangover, right? They had to go through the gauntlet of Maui. You caught them kind of early, right after that, where they were exhausted and toast. But Auburn is absolutely the closest team to Houston.
All right, Trey. Mike has taken both underdogs here. Who do you like in this matchup, Houston and Duke?
Man, great minds think alike. And Houston was my winner from the beginning. So I got to stick with that, stick with my guns. I got Houston winning this one, and I have Houston winning it all ultimately. I just think this defense is just so stiff. They're so hard to play against. They make it so hard for opposing guards. I think they're going to put a ton of ball pressure on Sion James and Tyrese Proctor and almost take them out of the game. And then also watching Emmanuel Sharp in their last game play defense against Chaz Lanier, where he forced him for 4 of 18 from the field. I think he has the capability to take Con Knippel, who's coming off a great game, scoring 22 points in their last game, to take him out of the game as well. And so I just feel like Duke is just really going to struggle to score in this one. And I feel like Houston this year has enough offensive firepower, and they're playing with better spacing. They've gotten better offensively. I think LJ Cryer is going to have a big-time performance. I think Milos Kuzan is the X factor. He averaged 20 points per game in the Big 12 tournament. It's been up and down. I think he's going to have a big-time performance. I'm going with Houston.
If that happens, guys, and Houston wins this game, they're already the first team from Texas to play a Final Four in the state of Texas. Imagine all those tickets that get bought up for Championship Monday.
Storybook stuff.
There'll be a lot of red in the arena on Championship Monday night. Trey Demps with us, Mike O'Donnell in studio. Fellas, thank you. A reminder, we've got the Final Four for you on CBS. Florida and Auburn tip at 6:09. Houston and Duke after that. We're calling it 8:49 for now.